Baseball has a problem. It's losing viewers, it's losing revenue, and it's losing ground to other sports. To combat this, MLB has attempted to win back casual fans by making a series of rule changes. And some may have disastrous consequences. But are these new rules hurting or helping the game? Let's find out right after this. Look, finding a gift for your special lady friend is tough. But there's one thing that you can get that always does the trick. That's right, jewelry. However, most of us suck at that too. That's where Blue Nile comes in. Blue Nile provides expert, pressureless guidance with a wide assortment of jewelry at the highest quality and best price. Take advantage of the ease and convenience of online shopping. BlueNile.com is the original online jeweler. You get guaranteed service and repair for life. And every order is insured and arrives quickly in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. And in most cases, they can deliver overnight. So if you got that big date tomorrow, this is clutch. It's time to show someone how much you really care. Go to BlueNile.com to find the perfect jewelry gift today and use code 5points spelled out to get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. Again, that's BlueNile.com from the link below and use code 5points to get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. 3-batter minimum for a reliever. Before 2020, pitching changes were bogging down the game. A new reliever would get a long jog, 8 warm-up tosses, 1 catchy intro song, 3 crotch grabs, and 2 stare downs just to face 1 batter. Then repeat the process. Then the MLB instituted a rule change that requires pitchers to either face a minimum of 3 batters or pitch to the end of a half inning, with exceptions for injuries and illnesses. This brings an entirely new level of strategy for managers, one that Grady Little's brain would suffer meltdowns on. The lefty-lefty matchup could backfire if a batter gets on base and is followed by a few righties. If a pitcher is struggling with his control, there's nowhere to hide. Obviously, this change helped with the pace of play and average time per game. Mechanically, I like this rule. However, it has led to a shift in roster construction that may have cost some pitchers their jobs. Another side effect is some pitchers being hung out to dry and hit with inflated ERAs. Overall, though, the results of this rule, more runs, less stoppages, and quicker pace of play, is an excellent thing for the game. I say helping. The banning of the shift. While technically not a full ban, this new rule places strict limits on how and where teams can position their infielders. The defensive team must have a minimum of 4 players on the infield, with at least 2 infielders completely on either side of second base. Also, players may not switch sides or change positions during an inning. A team can still move an outfielder to the infield, but teams cannot have 4 outfielders. The penalty is a ball call for improper alignment at the time of the pitch. This one is a direct result of hitters swinging for the fences and failing to adapt. As they say, chicks dig the long ball. The unintended byproduct of this approach is that these same hitters are grounding out to the second baseman or shortstop in shallow right field because they are trying to pull everything. This anti-moneyball approach has resulted in lower BAPIP, or batting average, for balls placed in BAPIP. In 2022, the league-wide batting average of balls put in play was 291, down 6 points from 2012 and a full 10 points lower than 2006. But who is to blame here, the shift or the hitters?
Strike 3! He struck him out! What a coincidence! Oh my God!
Why don't the hitters simply take what's given to them? Lay down a bunt or a nice inside-out swing. Look at Ted Williams and his frozen head. Not literally. In 1941, during his .406 season, he faced the shift, and rather than try to put one in the bleachers, he hit a soft liner down the left field line for an easy double. Then later that same season, he laid down a bunt for a hit. Eric Sim just had a meltdown. Teams got the message and stopped playing the shift against him. But today's players refuse this type of approach. To me, this represents an enabling of one-dimensional hitting. Before, you either hit a home run or you were out. Now you either hit a tank or hit a single. If this spring is any indicator, the restrictions on the shift seem encouraging, as both runs and batting averages are both up compared to where they were a year ago. As someone who looks at the field and says, my player's my choice, I have trouble getting on board with this, but we'll see if the banning shifts the game towards more runs. Dad jokes Universal DH. The permanent designated hitter was adopted by the National League as part of the new CBA in 2022. This one was an obvious and overdue development in the game. For far too long, baseball purists argued against this. But could you imagine a different set of rules in football just for being in another city? Like no extra points allowed in Dallas?
And he has done it again.
For every Zach Greinke and Madison Bumgarner, there are multiple Ben Sheets and Santiago Casillas. Nobody wants to watch pitchers hit, except maybe their fucking parents. Worse yet, having the pitcher come up in a big spot with a couple on and a couple out was a rally killer. It was harder to watch than some YouTuber's insincere apology.
And when asked if I've ever taken steroids, I've always said no. I don't touch this stuff, not gonna touch this stuff, never touch this stuff. That was a lie.
In 2021, the last year before the universal DH was implemented, pitchers had a combined 103 average and 135 on-base percentage, both all-time lows. Meanwhile, the DHs in 2022 didn't exactly look like Harold Baines. National League DHs only hit 238, which is terrible, but still far better than what pitchers can do. Plus, NL teams need to start adding bigger one-dimensional bats to their roster. Now that DHs are more respected, Ortiz, Edgar Martinez, Harold Baines, etc., they have become normalized, and having the DH in both leagues is something that should have occurred years ago. Extra inning ghost runner on second base. In an effort to protect player health and safety during the condensed schedule, the rule that each extra inning begins with a runner on second base was first put in place during the COVID year of 2020. It seemed to work, and some fans and players liked it, so the league kept it for 2021 and 2022 as well, and it appears that it's here for the long haul. Apparently, the league didn't like 18 or 20 inning games. Beyond the obvious lack of excitement, the marathon games could destroy a team's bullpen. Of course, the league was very aware of the effect this could have on stats, and actually built this into the rules. For the incentive-based deals based on earned run averages, rest easy, the player on second base counts as an unearned run. Look, a lot of fans hate this rule. It's been described as cheap, but I disagree. Get the game over with. Beer sales stopped in the 7th inning anyways, and is not used in the playoffs where extra innings are much more exciting and meaningful. The pitch clock. Now, here's the big one. Starting this season, there will be a timer on all pitchers. In an obvious effort to speed up the pace of play, the league has instituted a 30-second timer in between batters. Additionally, there will be a 15-second timer between pitches with the bases empty and a 20-second timer with runners on base. Pitchers must begin their motion before the clock expires. If not, they are charged an automatic ball. This rule doesn't exclude batters either. Looking at you, Nomar. Batters have an 8-second clock between pitches when they must be in the batter's box. If not, there will be an automatic strike called. Batters are also allowed one timeout per at bat. Confusion aside, the direct parallels here to how the shot clock revolutionized basketball cannot be overlooked. Much like it did in hoops, combined scoring went from 79.5 points per game in 1953 to 93.1 the following year. The pitch clock will no doubt speed up the pace of play in baseball games and lead to quicker games. This spring is a perfect example, with the average time of games being about 25 minutes shorter than they were last spring. That's a full episode of Schitt's Creek you could be watching. Another byproduct of the rule, which also includes limits on how many times a pitcher can throw over to check a runner, which is just twice, is that stolen base attempts and steals have increased. In the minors last season, steal attempts increased to 2.83 with a success rate of 77%, both up from 2.23 per game and a 68% rate in 2019. Runners can now time a pitcher and be more aggressive, especially if the pitcher has reached his throw-over limit. One caveat, the pitcher can make a third pickoff attempt, but the runner automatically advances one base if the pickoff is unsuccessful. Good, fuck the days where unlimited checks put the game into an endless cycle level of minutia. Less time between batters and between pitches, plus more stolen bases, plus more opportunities for offensive plays equals higher scoring, shorter games, and more excitement. How could this be anything but a good thing for the game? Well, others certainly have their opinions. We just watched the WBC, which didn't have a pitch clock, and might have seen the best baseball in the history of the game. Purists are big mad at the rushed feel of the game. Pitchers are already gaming the clock. Players on both sides of the ball definitely hate it. Look, I don't hate the intent of the rule, it's more the execution I have a problem with. And the batters and pitchers are figuring out the loopholes, and it's also a pretty confusing rule. The concept is good, it just needs tweaking. It's unclear whether or not they are going to implement it in the postseason, and there is no freaking way a playoff game should come down to whether a pitcher or batter was ready in the box. But for a long-ass summer day, this rule will do what it's intended: speed up the game and allow me to get home faster so I can browse more adult websites. At the end of the day, whether or not you like these rule adjustments or not, they have been put in place to address the issue of slower, longer games with less scoring and more bullshock. A wise man once said, "Preservation isn't done through stagnation, it's done by improving the product to attract new fans." I guess we'll fucking see.
Tommy, that's fucking bullshit. You know it.
Then you talk to me
I
about
know,
it.
but you know,
Okay.
you gotta give us a shot.